Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about two more of the Alex Verus novels by Benedict Jacka. I've been having an absolute blast and going through this series, and these two books, things get taken up quite a notch. So the books I'm going to talk about are Chosen, which is the fourth in the series, and Hidden, fifth in the series. So I'll start with Chosen. Now, Chosen, for me, it marks a turning point in the story. I think it might be my favorite. It not might be. It is my favorite book of this series to date. So, the essential plot of Chosen is we have a character who crosses the pond, comes over to London from America, except he comes with a hit squad. And they come with the sole intention of targeting dark mages. And right at the top of the list is Alex. Why is Alex at the top of the list? Well, it turns out that this is the chickens coming home to roost for Alex. When he was an apprentice to Richard Drack, we keep getting hints throughout the story that he did some shady stuff. And this hit squad that literally came across the pond to deal with him is a consequence of that. This guy has the guy who came. He's a great antagonist throughout the entire course of the book, and he has justice on his side. So throughout these books so far, Alex is the first person to say, he's not dark mages are not good people. He's not a good person, that kind of thing. This is the first book where you actually start to feel it. Like this is crazy. This book was just it was just intense, because throughout the entire book it was just like a marvelous character arc for Alex. We had him constantly struggle with wanting to be this new person that he's trying to be, and fending off the constant series of attacks from this hit squad, when he could just turn to what he used to be and deal with them in a much more straightforward, a much more final fashion. But that's not who he wants to be. So it's a thin line to cross, and the book basically becomes just this long running series of battles. And throughout it, his friends stand by him, but as they find out more about what he did to cause this, it gets pretty divisive, to say the least. It's just intense from start to finish, not just the action but the consequences of this book on the characters as a whole so far. Ooh. And in addition to that, it still manages to be everything that we like about an Alex Verus novel. It's fun, it's action packed, it's just creative in the way that we have Alex's skill set being used to deal with situations. He has he leverages some elements in the that we've seen so far in the books, some elements in the previous books to deal with the situation, and the consequences of dealing with that situation results in some pretty interesting changes where it comes to the characters that we've met so far. This is just a good book from start to finish. Like, as soon as I started reading it, I was immediately hooked right through to the end. I don't think I've been this hooked on an urban fantasy book since I started reading Dresden. Like, it was just good. It was just so good. And I think the defining moment of this book actually is Alex makes a choice that you really start to think that throughout these books so far, he's been, as much as he says he isn't, he's always been like the heroic character. He's always been quote unquote on the side of good in terms of like the morality of a situation or so. In this book, he starts to make choices that make you think twice. This guy may not be, he's no anti-hero, but he's not as heroic as he's been so far. Like, I still can't get over what an amazing character arc this was for him. Ooh. What can I say? another thing that did get to me, now that I think about it, is that I sympathize with the struggle that he's facing, because he used to be this person. He hated the person that he was, but so he tries to be something more, something better, and his entire life is just a constant battle to try to be that person, to try to be this better version of himself, this version that he wants to be. He faces constant struggle, constant conflict. After a certain time, I went through a similar situation. After a certain time, you do start to think it's just easier to be who you were and deal with situations the way you were and hang the consequences. And and we kind of see that play out to an extent in this book. And so, like, as much as this is like a fun action-packed book, it is very heavy also in just in terms of the consequences it has on the story so far, on the characters so far that we've come to know and enjoy. Like, this is a good book. This is a really good one. This, like I said, this is the best for me. This is the best in the series so far, and I suspect that long after I've read the series, it will always stand out as one of the best in the series because of what goes on in this book and the choices Alex faces. Wow. So yeah, needless to say, thoroughly enjoyed. Continue to blast through the series, which brings me to the next book I want to talk about, the sequel to this book, and that's Hidden. So, Hidden is a very different beast coming off of The High of Chosen. I kind of had to take a step back, take a little time before getting back into this one, because I didn't expect, I highly doubted another book would be able to go on par with Chosen, just given the sheer level that book operated at. And I was right to an extent. Hidden is a bit of a step back. It is a bit slow, and but it is more significant for the overarching plot. So it's everything we like. We enjoy about the Alex Verus series. Everything about we enjoy about urban fantasy in general. It's just light, fast-paced, action-packed, pure popcorn, that kind of stuff, with a bit of with enough character-driven moments involved to keep things grounded and semi-serious. It has all of that. It has all of the basic foundation blocks of an Alex Verus story. Where this one marks a departure from what we've seen so far, where it marks a shift, is that throughout the story to date, over the previous 4 novels, we've had this record, like, right from the get-go. When we got Alex's backstory, it was easy to point out, okay, this will be the overarching conflict of either the overarching conflict of the story, or it will be what the series builds up to. Because Alex does have a pretty big loose tie in his past that he needs to deal with sooner or later. And in this book, that's when we see things start to shift in that direction. We start to see movements toward, like, the series start to build towards that ultimate climax. Given this series is 12 books and this is book 5, and these things kind of happen over the course of book 5, it bodes well for the next 7 books, to say the least. But that's in terms of its place within the overarching plot. Within the subplot contained within this book itself, it's mainly about Alex dealing with the consequences of his trying to, like, deal with his relationships with his friends, as that dealing with the consequences of the previous book, Chosen. As I said, the book was pretty intense, and it did stir some things up, and this book is pretty much about dealing with that. And in the process of dealing with that, right when everyone's most estranged, for lack of a better word, things go down. Some other chickens come home to roost for some other characters, and Alex isn't necessarily the person they want to see to help, whereas he still wants to try to do best by his friends. So that's kind of where in this case, the chickens that come home to roost are Ann Walkers, and Alex tries to be a friend, but given how her reaction to his actions in Chosen, it's a bit interesting to see play out, to say the least. So that's kind of like the arc of this book, and it was okay, you know. Like honestly, the only character in this entire series that feels truly fleshed out for me is Alex. Luna to a lesser extent. Everyone else so far just feels kind of like cardboard cutouts, and I completely forgot the other guy's name and sidekick. I completely forgot his name. Dear God, yeah, Vari. That was it, Vari. That just goes to show how much like cardboard cutouts they feel, how forgettable they are. But yeah, like this story is not about them. This story is about Alex anyway. So it was a good book. I would have found it. I didn't expect any book to really go as hard as Chosen did. So I still had a fun time with it, and it was interesting to see things shift in this book. It's like I mentioned right from the get go. It's everything we enjoy about an Alex Verus novel at this point. It's tightly written, it's fast paced, it's action packed, it has some interesting character moments and some developments to kind of watch play out and interact, and best of all, the overarching plot of the series has finally kicked off, and where things go from here is going to be very, very interesting. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on two more books in the Alex Verus series. I think I'll just keep doing this, just talk about these books 2 at a time or 3 at a time, because at this point, like it's more fun to talk about what kind of goes down in the book in non-spoilery terms than it is to kind of try and analyze the book when it's just the same thing over and over and over at this point. So yeah, if you're a fan of the series, drop a comment, let me know. If you've made it this far, I know no one ever does, but if by some miracle you made it this far, drop the keyword pipsqueak in the comments. So I'll be pleasantly shocked that someone actually made it this far. So yeah, that's all I have to say about this, and thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.